Hello and welcome to Pet Watch, a monthly program about the Williamson County Animal Center. I'm Debbie Sims and I'll be your host today, and my guest is Amy Cotta. Hello, Amy.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. We're glad to have you here. As you can see, Amy has a shirt on that says Memories of Honor, and she's here today to talk about a Memories of Honor related event called Boots for Troops that's coming up in Franklin. So first, let's talk about Memories of Honor and how you got involved in creating that not-for-profit organization.
Yeah, so we're a national military nonprofit. We're home-based in downtown Franklin, and my family, we're a military family, and I signed for, I should say, my then 17-year-old son over to the Marine Corps when he was in high school, and that was, you know, people talk about pivotal moments in your life, and that was a major pivotal moment for me. It was one of those moments where I knew he was going to go in. You know, he was a 9/11 kid, and he always wanted to serve his country. But, you know, he was like, "Mom, I want to go in the Marines. I want to be a grunt." And as a mother, like, that's your worst nightmare, even though you know that it's a possibility that your child could be going to war. And in 2011, we were losing so many overseas, but we were losing even more here at the battles that are fought on American soil with PTSD.
Right.
And I knew too much.
Yeah. And
they over-prepared me. They said, "Ma'am, it's not a matter of if or when your son's going to be deployed. It'll be where and how often." And he wasn't supposed to leave until November, and he volunteered to go in early. So he basically went straight from high school graduation to me putting him on that bus. And when people talk about sending your child off to college, and we have 6 kids, so you know we've had kids leave.
You've had goodbyes before,
yes,
but not one like this. Yeah.
But again, knowing too much and it being wartime, and my first thought whenever I was sitting there signing the papers, whenever I signed for him to join the Marine Corps, was, what if he gets to boot camp and he hates it? And what if, you know, he blames me? And then that voice went off in the back of my head, oh my God, what if something happens to him? Am I going to be able to live with myself?
Nightmare, right.
So it's that point of that separation anxiety that you feel whenever anybody in your family that you're really close to leaves or moves away, especially your children. But you take that and you pour rocket fuel on it and light a match, and that's what it's like to possibly send your child off to war. And I went through a major depression during the whole time he was gone, but especially during the first couple of weeks while he was in boot camp, not knowing and not being able to be there for him.
And you can't communicate with them while they're in boot camp. They're cut off.
Yeah,
that's part of the training.
Yeah, they're cut off. And eventually there are letters, but they're cut off. And you know, I found myself, I'd be driving down Highway 65 just crying my eyes out, or my husband and I would be at dinner and I'd start crying, or if somebody would say, "Hey, how's Tyler doing?" I would physically lose the ability to speak. And I told my husband, I said, I've got to find, and I've got to get help. And it was either go and get medication for depression or do something about it. And I decided to do something about it. So I laced up a pair of combat boots, the steel toe Marine Corps combat boots. Suckers were heavy. And the Franklin Classic was going on. And I lived just down the road, so I laced up those boots and I went and I ran the Franklin Classic, and I found healing and peace. It was like layers of armor falling off while I was doing that race. And then 2 weeks later, the women's half marathon was in downtown Nashville. That was the 4th half marathon I'd signed up for, and it was the first one I ever showed up to. And I ran it in combat boots, and 2 of my girlfriends ran it in combat boots with me. Again,
what was fueling you then?
It was using that sport as a healing mechanism, but also every step I took was but try not to cry.
That's okay.
It was, every step I took was a love letter to my son.
But it's a raw emotional time for anyone to send someone off to an unknown situation, or your child, and to have that build up inside of you and not have any resources other than, well, you obviously didn't want to go, well, give me a pill for depression and it'll get better. Because it probably would have gotten a little better, but not giving you something you could continue for a long time. But running, it's physically exhausting, but it's exhilarating. So there are other things that happen when you run, right?
Yeah, and I noticed too, as I was running, I use that term loosely, especially when you're in combat boots and you're not a runner. It was more of a shuffle.
Yeah.
But I would film it so that way, and I tracked every step that I took. So that way, when we picked up Tyler to come home for that little bit before he went to wherever his post was going to be, I could tell him, hey, I was there in spirit with you. And it was having that sense of connection. But I quickly learned that I wasn't the only one that needed and wanted those connections. My boot running gained national attention, and I had other families reaching out to me, other moms that were sending their children off wanting a piece of what I was getting. And kind of fast forward, a friend of mine, her and her husband is a Army medic, and he lost 14 of his teammates. And I saw what those 3 anniversaries did to him and his family every year. And I wanted to be able to take that pain away from him, but there's no way to physically do that. And so I asked if it would be okay with the families if I carried those 14 on my pack. So by then, I'm running like longer races, I'm doing crazy stuff, and I'm pack, weight, anything to up the ante. And because I was raising money for other military nonprofits.
Were you putting these people's names on your pack?
Their photos.
Flags and photos?
Their photos.
Okay.
And so one of the moms reached out to me, Tara Peterson. Her son was one of those 14 original on my pack. And she said that it was always Anthony's dream to do an Ironman someday, but he was never able to do it.
Right.
He was killed in action at 24. And so Tara was living my worst nightmare.
Right. Well, you instantly could relate to that, I'm sure.
Yeah. I mean, I could never know the depths of the pain of our families that have lost loved ones.
Right.
But so I told Tara, I said, I'm going to do an Ironman for and with Anthony. So on September the 27th, 2014, I did the inaugural Chattanooga Ironman. I had just learned how to swim. And by that point, I had the photos of 21 Fallen on my pack.
Wow.
And I carried them wearing the boots during that Ironman. And after the race, I was writing a note to Tara telling her how much that Anthony and the others meant to me and the impact that it made.
Right.
And I had asked the community for another finisher's medal for a girl that I had met. Her brother was on my pack as well. And before I knew it, I had 21 medals on my, one for each fallen service member that I had on my pack. And then my inbox was blowing up. And before I knew it, I had quit my job. And I had sent 150 packages over that calendar year to families of fallen service members. And this September 27th, we're now, we got our 501c3 shortly thereafter, and we're celebrating our 5th anniversary. And just 2 days ago, I sent 200 packages in one day to families of fallen service members.
Wow. Now, this organizing a local run for those who had loved ones who've fallen in service to our country and first responders. How did it come about that you decided to organize the run here called Boots for Troops?
Yeah, so we needed sustainability, and social media is a beautiful thing, but it's also a terrible thing when it comes to for nonprofits because of everybody constantly asking, "Hey, I'm raising money for this." People have fatigue, donor fatigue, and I didn't want to have to live and die by other people's generosity, but So it's that sustainability. It's a way. It's a way for us to make money, and if we put in the work, then we're gonna reap the rewards of those seeds that we're sowing.
Right.
But it's also part of our mission, because every single person that comes out there, whether they're walking, whether they're running, whether they're rucking, which means they're in combat boots and a military pack, no matter who they are, no matter what they're doing, they are carrying the names of a fallen service member with them that's in our database. So each and every single one of those individuals that are on our course becomes a living, breathing memorial. And
it's a very moving thing, because people enter runs all the time and give to a larger umbrella organization, and they don't really, if they choose an illness or disease that they want to contribute money to, that's great, but they don't ever meet or have a name of a person that maybe has that. But to have it on your backpack or on your bib or pinned on your shirt while you're walking, and to talk to others about it who've had similar circumstances, or maybe they haven't. And I understand when you register to do the run, which is coming up at Harlansdale Farm, give me the date. Now,
it's Saturday, November the 9th. It's always either around and or on Veterans Day.
And the reason we like it at the shelter is because, well, two reasons, is because it's pet friendly and stroller friendly. Two things that many festivals and community gatherings tell you: please don't bring your dogs, and no strollers allowed. But this one, you allow anything, about anything that walks.
Yeah, we have two dogs. Our dogs are our family members.
Yeah.
So and we are growing this to be not so much more than just another 5K. It really is a family-friendly, a community event where everybody's welcome. Even those that don't want to participate, we have things for them to do in ways that they can be involved by making signs, carrying flags.
I can tell the most fun that I had was cheering on at the finish line, because out at Harlansdale, the route, they disappear from your vision. They start out, it's very exciting, and then they disappear for a while down by the river, and then they start coming back. And to cheer them on at the end and see the smiles on their faces. And we had dogs from the shelter there. In another of your events, we've let people take our shelter dogs and walk with them.
They love that, by the way.
Yeah, because dogs are, like you said, part of the family, but it's unconditional love that a dog gives you. And sometimes, as you know, and you mentioned earlier, the problems we have with with an epidemic of PTSD and suicide among veterans in this country, if one person can be comforted just for a little while by a dog, it could change their life in that moment.
Well, and many of the service members that come out to, or veterans that come out to our events, have service dogs, and we need to accommodate for that. And there's nothing worse than saying sorry, but your dog's not welcome. That is in many cases and in many times and in points in their life, that dog is not just their best friend, but he or she is an extension of that veteran's life in that world.
Like a therapist. I mean, to come over and say, "Hey, I'm here."
Like you're taking part away. You're taking a piece of them away from them.
Right.
That's important. So as long as we're able to continue to do events where we're able to bring in dogs, they are always welcome.
And anyone who wants to walk, run in whatever form of shoes they want. You have several categories. I mean, an individual can enter and run in regular shoes. This is not a race for a person's glory. This is a race for a person to feel that they've contributed something to someone who has suffered.
Exactly.
And that they've given some comfort. And to just know that you can go up and say, "Hey, I'd like to put a service member name on my bib." And you mentioned the packages you mail out. Now let's clear that up for our viewers, because that, to me, is the most emotional part of this, is at the end of an event, you actually send that family member of that soldier a package.
Yes.
And what's in it?
So for the case of our 5K, it's different with every event that we do because we're nationwide. We partner with.
It can be different.
Yeah,
different places.
It's different. But in the case of our events, all the participants are given the option. Again, it's optional. Given the option to write a message to that fallen service member's family. Those go on our wall of gratitude, and our wall of gratitude was built by one of our local families.
Right.
The brother,
it's amazing.
The brother of Lance Corporal Benjamin Gerhardt built the wall for us, and so those messages start filling up the wall. But the individuals also have the opportunity, if they wish, to donate back their finisher's medal to that family. So regardless, those messages are being sent to the families, and the ones that have the medals that individual is giving to that family.
Who they're honoring.
Goes in, And it's just a small token of you're not forgotten.
Right.
Somebody still cares, and your loved one didn't die in vain.
We brought their name up today, and we don't even know you, but we did this
for
you.
And in many cases, you're just how, my life was impacted by the men and women that I carried. Your loved one is still touching lives.
Right, right.
And for a lot of families too, it has, well, all of them, it has meaning. But it's important to point out that we don't put a stop date on loss. So all of the men and women that are in our database were put there by families. So we have a couple from World War II, we have Vietnam, and every conflict thereafter. Of course, the biggest majority has been, in the recent, because we've, so many that we've lost in the war on terror. But we also honor all loss of life in direct conjunction with service. And that's not to take valor away from anybody that lost their life to the enemy's bullet.
Right.
But we honor killed in action, missing in action, training accidents, self-infliction, which is the suicide, medical issues directly related to service, and or any special circumstances while on active duty. Because I can tell you that, again, this isn't to take valor away from anybody that has lost their life to the enemy's bullet, but I'm going to share with you some words from Lance Corporal Benjamin Gerhardt's mom, Brenda. She said, Amy, Ben didn't choose to go over that cliff and die in that training accident. He did do 2 tours. He would have much rather lost his life to the enemy's bullet, having given the choice.
Right.
And Ben deserves to be honored and remembered more than one day a year.
Yeah, she's right. Yeah, we know she's right. And it's such a wonderful thing for families who may not be directly connected to the military to know that it's okay now. Because you talked about World War II and Vietnam, you didn't really worry about it too much. You came back from, World War II, and the next day you went back to work, and nobody said anything, like, how you feeling? What'd you see over there? And so those people carried a lot of scars for a lot of years. So as painful as it is to address these issues, we know that they have to be addressed. And the only way we can change it is do things like you're doing, and starting this organization.
And many of those from Vietnam being honored and remembered at our events.
Right.
For a lot of these families are the first time that their loved one has been honored and remembered.
Right.
And, I had an uncle that served in World War II, a cousin who lost his life recently within the last couple of years to his demons with the needle that he came home from Vietnam addicted to drugs.
Yeah.
And, we actually died 2 deaths. The first death is when we take our last breath. The second death is the last time that somebody speaks our name. So Memories of Honor, through our programs and through our events, we make sure that second death never happens.
Right. You keep the names alive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because the families and those individuals deserve nothing less.
Yeah.
And in the environment, the political environment that we live in right now, we all need something that unites us.
Wasn't it nice to hear about the serviceman who had no family last week, who word got out that the funeral home was going to completely pay for his services, and hundreds of people that came from near and far just because they are veterans. So we need to venerate our veterans and hold them up and as an example, to the rest of us who are unable or never had the chance or chose not to serve, because there are people that do choose that. Now, when we get back to you're doing a 5K at Harlansdale, okay, and I saw you brought some boots. Now tell us, and a T-shirt, so tell us what it means to be in the ruck section. What does ruck mean? It means you wear your boots?
Yeah.
And a pack?
So rucking is what our military does for training. We do a much easier, lighter version than what they do. But rucking, essentially, you're in combat boots or some kind. For us, it's any type of work boot, combat boot, and either a weighted vest and or a weighted pack. We also this year added a boot running division for anybody that still wanted to be competitive, but was running in boots, so that way they weren't competing against
It's a little harder than a pair of running shorts and some expensive running shoes from the store. It's a little bit harder when you put on boots. Yeah. You get a little taste of the kind of training that our military has to go through. Well, and the sacrifices and suffering.
Exactly. Yeah. That's the whole point of Boots for Troops, is giving civilians the opportunity to literally put some miles and walk or run in our military's footsteps in their boots.
Right.
So the boots are optional. They're not mandatory.
Right.
But we do give a special gift for those that come to the event and start and finish in boots.
Now you have individuals running in a couple of categories, you said. Now what's a camaraderie team?
That is church groups, any type of groups where it's friends, where if they want to, have that sense of community. If they, they
all might work together.
They all might work together.
It might be a church Sunday school class. Say, do any of you guys want to go walk with me or run with me? And we'll have a group of 5 to 10 or whatever. That would be great, because it'd be a bonding experience for people.
Exactly. But at the same time, too, people can still walk and start and finish at their own pace. So it's more of a camaraderie team, but we also have corporate teams for businesses that want to.
That's great. And what is a Battle of the Box team?
We do a lot with fitness centers and CrossFit gyms. Right. So that's another category where they can compete against other CrossFit gyms or other fitness centers. Same thing with JROTC teams, ROTC. We have divisions for first responders, for military veterans.
I don't want to get away from what briefly are some of the services that you provide with the money that you receive from the race.
Yeah, I would say, one of the most important is our Enduring Heroes program. Everything that we do is about keeping the memory alive of these service members. And it's really easy for most people to understand how what we do impacts the families, but they don't always understand how that impacts our military veterans. And so through Enduring Heroes, we sponsor surviving family members, active duty and veterans to other sporting events, endurance events, and we also go together a couple times a year as a family, where we'll take 20 or 30 individuals to destination events. And they are able to use that as a means, just like I found in my own life, use those events as a means of healing, but also of honoring a loved one, a fallen teammate, or somebody that they've never met. And there's actually on our website, if you scroll down a little ways, there's a video recently produced by the Department of Defense at one such event that we do annually. We take 20 or 30 individuals out to the Bataan Memorial Death March. It's a military ruck march in the high desert. It's 26.2 miles through the mountains, and you never leave the military base. But Christina Rodriguez Smith is on that documentary, and you get to hear firsthand what honoring her brother and sisters in arms, and those that she was in mortuary affairs, and those that she prepared to come home to their families.
And
what
all
that
of
means
that's
to her.
on bootsfortroops5k.com.
Yes,
right?
and well, the video is on our national website, which is memoriesofonor.org.
Okay, memoriesofonor.org, and then if you want to come sign up and find out more about the race and possibly being a vendor of some kind at your event, that would be on the bootsfortroops5k.com.
Yes,
okay.
And there's also a link on the website. And everybody that volunteers, we love volunteers.
Oh, you need volunteers too? Well,
yes, you get one of our Boot Crew shirts.
Great.
They're never sold, they're always earned.
Oh, thank you. We could talk all day about such an important topic, but people feel so moved. I hope they come out and support you on that day, and I thank you for being here today and tell us about it. And bring your dog.
Yes.
Bring your stroller or bring your dog.
Bring your puppies.
Thank you. I do want to mention to our viewers that on October 5th, the shelter will be out at Nashville Pet Products all day at their Pet Appreciation event. And then on October 12th, we'll be at Holler and Dash Restaurant in the Hill Center in Brentwood, and a portion of that entire day's proceeds will go back to the Williamson County Animal Center. So we're excited about that. And then on the 26th of October, we'll be down at Pumpkin Fest again. And Walton's Jewelry is letting us put kittens in their front window, so that should be fun. And we'll also have a puppy kissing booth down on the square at F&M Bank. So we hope to see you out at Pumpkin Fest for some dog and kitty fun. And then on October 26th, we'll have our monthly rabies and microchip clinic at the shelter that we have every last Saturday, with a few exceptions for holidays. But this October, it's on the 26th from 9 to 11, and you can get a rabies shot for $10 or a microchip for $15. And then we'll have our next volunteer orientation if you want to come to the shelter and be a volunteer on a regular basis. That'll be on October 30th, and all that information is on adoptwcac.org. I thank you for joining us today on the program, and I hope you learned a lot about what's in Amy's heart, and the Boots for Troops 5K will be something you'll want to participate in. Thank you for watching.